What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name is Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on the Touchdowns to Home Runs show. Hope that your day is going absolutely fantastic. Today we're going to be looking at some of the things that I've seen from the Toronto Blue Jays so far in the spring training period. Now, I know it's only spring training, so you can't put too much value on the Blue Jays record at 3-2 or some of the players' stats as well. But after the first week, I definitely feel like there's some key takeaways to look out for and some things to potentially keep on looking out for the remainder of the spring training period. Now, we can't start breaking down the Blue Jays spring training without talking about the real headline player so far, which is Josh Palacios. And this guy has been making a real case for himself to make the Blue Jays roster in what's already a very crowded outfielding position. But what we've seen from him so far is a guy who is hitting 5 for 9 with the home run and 6 RBIs, obviously a good average, an improved hitter at the plate, and also a guy who has looked really sound defensively. Now, a lot of people watching this video, a lot of Blue Jays fans even, potentially don't even know who this kid is. And I actually had to do a double take as well, looking back at his minor league stats, a guy who sort of floated around the Toronto Blue Jays system. But I did some research into what he says sort of is the difference maker so far in the early part of the spring, and he accredits to George Springer, Blue Jays' new free agency addition in the outfield, and he says he's a great leader, a guy who on the bench can give some insight about what he's noticing about pitchers, and he's a really great guy at being able to convey what he's analyzing on the baseball field. And, particularly looking at what George Springer can do for the Blue Jays in the bench, this is a Blue Jays lineup that is one of the youngest lineups in baseball and gets, a big chunk of their production from guys like Cavan Biggio, Bo Bichette, and Vlad Guerrero, who obviously lack a lot of experience at the major league level. So for the Blue Jays to get George Springer developing into a leader already in that clubhouse, and a guy who, not only a leader, but again, can help them potentially work through slumps, potentially notice things that at their young age they're not yet noticing about pitchers and about their approach at the plate. And I think, that could be a huge development for the Blue Jays lineup. We'll talk about sort of the congestion in the outfield towards near the end of the video, so if you want to stick around for that, definitely make sure to stick around to the end of the video. But next up, I want to focus on two of the Toronto Blue Jays young pitchers who both pitched in the same game, in their last game against the New York Yankees, and that's Simeon, Richardson, and Alek Manoah. Again, both young pitchers, but what I really thought was interesting about this game is actually pretty much the entire real Yankees lineup was playing in that game. And you're talking about two pitchers who obviously, are big prospects for the Toronto Blue Jays, and they both pitched absolutely fantastic. 2 innings apiece, only allowed a walk and a hit combined. We'll start with Simeon Richardson. I think his ETA is still a few years away, probably next year or potentially even the year after. But this is a guy, again, who's at the top of the Blue Jays system. We got him back in the trade for Marcus Stroman. And he looked fantastic in his outing. And then on the flip side, obviously, Alek Manoah, the big body pitcher on the mound, pitched 2 innings and had like 4 strikeouts. And I think if any one of the real Blue Jays prospects make the roster this year, I think it is going to be Alek Manoah. But given, again, that he didn't really pitch last year with no minor league system, I think his ETA is probably next year when we see him in the actual starting rotation for the Blue Jays. But again, a great sign, facing as good of hitters, I think, as you can be facing in the early part of the spring training. And I know that obviously Yankees hitters are still getting back to the swing of things, being a while since they've seen live pitching, obviously, as well, besides their camps. But again, I think great performances, and I think definitely a good sign in the right direction for these young Blue Jays pitchers. Sticking on the category of starting pitchers, we got Steven Matz, and he pitched once already this year. 2 innings, 3 strikeouts as well, and he looked very good. Obviously, Blue Jays recently acquired him from the Mets in the trade of Sean Reed-Foley. This is a guy who's been underwhelming for the past couple of years, but Mets fans have always been really high on him. He was a very high draft pick, and he's a guy who's always had the talent in order to break through. And I've actually had him as a breakout pitcher for several years in the past. He's a guy who's got some great stuff. He can strike out guys, as we saw in this spring training game. But what it's been for him throughout the course of his career, really, is his inability to find command with his stuff. If Steven Matz doesn't walk guys, can keep those strikeout numbers right where we see them in the spring training game, I think Steven Matz is a perfect guy to fit right into the 5 spot of the Blue Jays starting rotation. And this is a starting rotation, obviously, that already has a lot of questions. Robbie Ray, Nate Pearson, Tanner Roark, a ton of questions in the rotation. If we could get Steven Matz to break through this year and really be a lockdown in that 4 or 5 spot of the Blue Jays rotation, it makes life a whole lot easier. Also, want to touch on another thing, which is Jake Odorizzi, who the Blue Jays were back into the free agency market for earlier today, got signed by the Houston Astros. Now the Toronto Blue Jays seemed for a while that they were out of the free agency market, which included for starting pitchers, but they ended up a few days ago going back in for Jake Odorizzi among a whole bunch of other teams, and obviously that was, you would have hoped potentially could be the 2 starter for the Blue Jays that they so desperately need. Obviously now not the case. To be honest, I didn't see Jake Odorizzi, first of all, coming to Toronto. I thought the Blue Jays didn't have enough money anyways, or else they would have got Taijuan Walker for that cheap deal that he ended up going for. But on the flip side, I don't think Jake Odorizzi is really the caliber of 2 starter that we actually want. In my opinion, he's a quality starter pitcher, maybe a bit above average. But I think he got like 2 years, $30 million. I wouldn't have given him that deal. So I think the Blue Jays, now again have to go that trade route. And now with the emergence seemingly of Josh Palacios, now I know it's early in spring training, but you are talking about more congestion in the outfield. You're assuming that your starting outfield is going to be Lourdes Gurriel, George Springer, and Teoscar Hernandez from left to right, which not only leaves Palacios on the bench or potentially not even making the roster, but also Randal Grichuk. And I don't see either of them working into the DH spot because that's probably going to be a 50-50 rotation or somewhat close between your Rowdy Tellez and your Alejandro Kirk if he does end up making the roster, which I do project that he will, and I think he will actually have a pretty good season. I think both of them will have pretty good seasons this year, which leaves Palacios. You got your prospects, you got Randal Grichuk, potentially somebody at the catching position, and now package in a trade, which I always thought was the better route for the Blue Jays in terms of acquiring a number 2 starter. Go to the Reds, get a guy like Sonny Gray potentially, to the Mariners, Marco Gonzalez, Rockies, German Marquez. I mean, there's a whole really bunch, a category of guys that the Blue Jays could potentially trade for that are high-end pitchers on low-end baseball teams, and I think that's where the Reds are. I think that's where the Rockies are trending. Obviously got rid of Arenado. I assume, again, they're going to end up wanting to trade Marquez, Story at some point in the season before the trade deadline. So I definitely think that the Blue Jays, again, aren't necessarily going to make a move before the start of the season, but I do think, again, they're going to test out their depth, which is exactly what it is in the Blue Jays rotation with your guys like Anthony K, Baraki potentially at times, Steven Matz, Robbie Ray. And then after that, the Blue Jays will see where they are. And as we push the trade deadline, hopefully the Blue Jays are making a playoff push. And that's what I think our front office, Mark Shapiro, Ross Atkins, will decide to go in and acquire that big name piece. But anyways, guys, if you did make it to this point in the video, that's going to be all for today. Let me know what you guys think about what you've seen from some Blue Jays so far this offseason. I want to hear it down all in the comment section below. But again, if you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs for more content just like this. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.